Prior to us commencing this sermon, let us all take a moment to pay homage to the Gautama Samma Sambuddhajanan Vahanse. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. And also before we commence, let us take a moment to observe the 5 precepts. Once again, as usual, reminding ourselves that today I'm having to observe these precepts because since the last time I observed them, there may have been many instances where either knowingly or unknowingly I might have broken these precepts, in the hope that may there soon be a day where I do not any longer have to observe them, because these precepts become the very fabric of who I am, the very fabric of my consciousness. Until such day arrives, I am today having to observe these precepts. So bearing that thought in mind, reflecting and contemplating on that reality, in order to observe the 5 precepts, I ask you all to recite the Namaskara Pata 3 times and all together. Buddhaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Dhammaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Saṅghaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Dutiyampi buddhaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Dutiyampi dhammaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Dutiyampi saṅghaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Tatiyampi buddhaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Tatiyampi dhammaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Tatiyampi saṅghaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Saranagamaṇaṃ sampunnaṃ, Pānāti pātā veramani, Sikkāpadaṃ samadhiyāmi, Adinādāna veramani, Sikkāpadaṃ samadhiyāmi, Kāmesu miccācārā veramani, Sikkāpadaṃ samadhiyāmi, Musāvādā veramani, Sikkāpadaṃ samadhiyāmi, Suramēraya majjapamā daṭṭhānā veramani, Sikkāpadaṃ samadhiyāmi, Tisaraṇena saddhiṃ pañcasīlaṃ dhammaṃ sādhukaṃ surakkitaṃ kattvā appamādena sampādeta. Okay, you may now all be seated. Before we commence, let us also take a moment to contemplate and recognize, remind ourselves the fact that throughout our infinitely long history, journey in samsara, there will have been many beings who we may have come across, who we will have come across, who, when we were with them, may have helped us, supported us, assisted us in many different ways, shapes and forms. Perhaps today they are not around us. Perhaps they are today in worlds very far away from us. Perhaps some of them are born in the woeful plane and others in the blissful planes. No matter where they may be, no matter what walk of life they may take, the only path to liberation is the path that the Buddha taught. So today that we have received this gift of Dhamma, today we are able to witness and walk the path of Dhamma. Let us invite all those beings, devas, brahmas, spirits, demons and the dead, those sentient beings who will have been our mothers, fathers, brothers, uncles, aunts, nephews, sisters, so on and so forth. Not just in this birth, but in previous births, teachers, anyone who might have helped us, assisted us, supported us, showed us the path when we were lost, or perhaps even just offered us a glass of water when we were thirsty. Whatever instance, whatever occasion they may have come into our lives to help us, let us take this opportunity to invite them, to offer them the gift of Dhamma in the hope that it will pay back for all the great things that they have done for us. This is our time to pay gratitude. So, as I now make this invitation, I ask you all to extend that invitation in your hearts and in your minds. Invite all the devas, brahmas, spirits, demons, and your ancestors, your predecessors, wherever they be, to listen to this and take from this sermon what might happen in the bliss of Nibbana. Samanda Chankalesu Atagachantu Devata Santamam Yajasansa Santu Sagga Mokkadang Dhamma Savana Kalo Ayang Badhanta Dhamma Savana Kalo Ayang Badhanta Dhamma Savana Kalo Ayang Badhanta. Also, let us take a moment to remind ourselves that today, although we are clad in robes and you in white, this is because of the transformation that we have experienced in our lives, having received the gift of Dhamma. In our infinitely long history and journey in samsara, we have not always had the gift of Dhamma. As a matter of fact, much of our associations have been with ignoble and immoral people. Ignoble and immoral people who defiled our minds with raga, dvesha, moha, desire, aversion and delusion, and having been blinded with avidya and tanha, ignorance and attachment, on those occasions that we might have met, perhaps face to face, with the Supreme Buddhas, the Pacceka Buddhas, the Arahata Buddhas, Anagami, Sakurdagami, Sotapannas, either on the path or having attained the fruits. We may have insulted them, offended them, abused them, slandered them, not knowing, not recognizing with the great qualities that they possess, as well as the Buddha's ministry, the Sambuddha Shasana. Any words or deeds or thoughts of desecration, abuse or slander that we may have directed towards them, either knowingly or unknowingly, may today block and hinder our progress in the Dhamma. So, prior to us commencing this sermon, let us take a moment to seek forgiveness from all the noble ones, from the Sri Sambuddha Shasana, the Buddha's ministry, for any words, speech or actions that of abuse, slander and desecration that we may have directed towards them. And finally, before we commence this sermon, let us all make a firm resolve that if there are any gaps in my understanding, any gaps in my comprehension that are keeping me from unlocking the path to the Noble Eightfold Path, unlocking the gates to the Noble Eight Path, and locking the gates to the hells once and for all, may through the course of this sermon I be able to fulfill those gaps. May I be able to attain the first step to Nibbana, that is the step of Sotapanna, through the course of this sermon itself. With that firm resolve in mind, I ask you all to prepare yourselves to listen to this sermon. Okay. A little behind schedule, but we need most of the time we have. I'll promise you that. I'll make the most of the time that you have laid in front of me, because I know that this is the biggest investment you can make, the biggest investment that you have made this week. And of course, you have to do your part. This is not a one-man band. One hand can't clap, right? You need two hands for that. So I'll do my bit. Let's all do our bit, right? I'm sure you will have all been to the doctor sometime or the other for whatever illness, ailment, seeking a remedy, seeking some kind of treatment, some kind of diagnosis. Is there anyone who went to the doctor just to say hello? On your way somewhere, hey, there's a doctor, there's a clinic. Why don't we just park up, just go and say, hey doctor, hi, how you doing? Yes, how can I help? No, I just came by, just stopped by to say hello. Catch you later, doctor. Anyone done that? No. That's a waste of our time. It's a waste of the doctor's time, right? When the doctor's got other patients to attend to, it's not right that we waste a doctor's time. What I want you all to think about is actually coming here and listening to the Buddha's teaching, no matter where you listen to that teaching from. It doesn't have to be here, anywhere. Whoever you listen to that teaching from, whether that's a layperson or a monk or a clergy, think of that as being a visit to the doctor. I know that you're all coming here because when you come, when you listen to these sermons, there is some mental satisfaction that you achieve from that. I hope I'm right. Please let me know if that is incorrect. Because then we should stop doing this. We have no aim or hope to distress any of you. This is all for your good. To help you feel better. To help you see better. More than feel better. What's the difference? We'll come to that in a bit. So I want you all to think of coming here as a visit to the doctor. That's why I came here. And I realized that there was something really, really, really wrong with me. And it wasn't enough for me to come to the OPD, so I decided to stay back for the surgery. And so now they've clad me in the clothes that are required for me to be taken into the operation theatre. That's why I'm in red. This is the operation theatre gown that they put on you before you are taken into the operation theatre. Because I'm ready for surgery. I don't care what parts of me they have to chop off to help treat me. I don't care. Chop whatever you like. Just help me feel better. Help me see better. But I know there are others who can't quite make that commitment just yet. For whatever reason, whatever circumstances. It could be age, it could be commitments, whatever, right? So, but nevertheless, you've come here and I want you to think of this as coming to the OPD. This is the outpatients department. So you've come here, take your treatment, and in the hope that you never have to come back. Right? Is it right for a doctor to expect the patients to keep coming back? That would not be a good doctor. In the business world, that would be right. When you have a shopkeeper, the shopkeeper always wishes for his customers to return. Is it right for a doctor to expect that? No, it's not right for a doctor to expect that. Because if a doctor does his job, he should expect his patients to be treated in one go. Even if it's multiple visits that are required, then at the end of that, his hope, his aim, his ambition should be, I want to treat you such that you never will have to come back to see me again. Isn't that right? I'm sure there'll be doctors in the audience. Well, this is my hope, that you never have to come back here. So just like you don't walk up to the clinic to say hello to the doctor and say goodbye and ask him how he's doing. Just the same as you will only go to the doctor because you have an ailment that needs treating. Remind yourselves that you're here because we've all got a problem that needs treating. This is something I remind you every day, every week before we begin the sermon. Because what I do know, and not necessarily from speaking to you, but some others, is that it's kind of become a habit. It can become a habit. Just a routine, like a visit to the beach. Just a visit to the park, to the playground. Let's all get together on a Sunday and go and listen to a sermon and come back. You don't do that with the doctor. So I don't expect you to do that here either. Come here, seek your treatment, get well soon, and then in the hope that you never have to come back here again. So that is my wish for you, and I hope that is yours as well. So, a moment ago I said between seeing and feeling. And I said I'll come back to that, right? So what's the difference between seeing and feeling? Because recently, actually, at the end of one of my Sinhala sermons, one gentleman came and asked me, Swami Nohansa, you speak of this pelima, which is vexation. This is the word that we've adopted to describe this concept of pelima, right? And he asks me, can you explain that in a little bit more detail? And I said, sure, I'll be happy to do that. Vexation can both be seen and felt. It can be seen and it can be felt. It's easier to feel than it is to see. Most people feel it, very few see it. Let's go back to the doctor. If you really have an ailment that requires a visit to the doctor, and you're now in front of the doctor, you're sat down, it's your channel, and when you go to the doctor, you're sat down, speaking to him, what would you normally say? Doctor, I see there's a problem with me. Or do you say, I don't feel too well? Do you say, I don't see too well, or I don't feel too well? I don't feel too well. I think there's something wrong with me. I just don't feel too well. I'm not the expert. You're the expert. Can you please check and let me know what's wrong with me and what is it that's required to fix me? Right? That's what we say. So we go to the doctor and say, I don't feel too well. So as a patient, we are entitled to not feel too well. But when you don't feel too well and you go to the doctor, does the doctor examine you and then say, yeah, I don't feel too well looking at you either? Or does the doctor say, I can see that you don't feel too well? When the patient says, I don't feel too well, the doctor says, I can see what's wrong with you. So the doctor's not experiencing what we feel. He's not experiencing our pain, but he's seeing what's wrong with us. To see is different to feeling. So what's the context here in relation to the Dhamma? I'm not just talking about a visit to the doctor, surely, right? I'm talking about the connection to the Dhamma that we have here. This vexation can be felt and it can be seen. We've been speaking about dukkha, sankhara dukkha, viparinama for some time now. And I think last week we took apart that riddle which we left over from a fortnight ago, and I asked you all to think about, and then I think last week I offered you a response to that. And we started to analyze what is the dukkha, what's the dukkha, and what's the sankhara dukkha, and what's the viparinama dukkha, right? We started to speak about that. And I also gave you some examples. Remember I told you about the couple that got pregnant? They didn't know about it. The parents who didn't have a need, they didn't need to name their child. They didn't need to find a school for the child. They didn't need to put together a savings plan for this child. Nothing like that. They didn't even have to make a bedroom or paint it blue or pink. They didn't have to do that until they discovered that the wife was pregnant. So there wasn't a feeling of, hey, what will she grow up to be? There were no que sera sera questions until the parents realized that the mother was pregnant. But the point that they realized that the woman was pregnant, now lots of questions start coming. Lots of questions start popping up. Will she be fine? Will she be okay? Is she fully formed? Might she have some disfigurements that will need to be fixed? Will she grow up to be a healthy child? Will she have a healthy weight when he or she comes into this world? Will I be able to find a good school for her? Will she grow up around good friends? Will she have good associations, noble associations? All these questions start to come. Do we have enough to feed this child? Do we have enough to bring up this child? Do we have the right surroundings, the right environment to bring up a good child in this society? All these questions. Parents, tell me, have you never thought about them as parents? The day you realized that you were pregnant, all these questions started coming into your mind. Didn't they? Yes. But were these questions in your mind before you got to know that you were pregnant? No. So the moment that you realize that, hey, now there's a fetus that's begun to develop inside my womb, now it's time for these questions to start popping up. So the dukkha is the arrival of that fetus. There's now life within the mother. Now that there's life within the mother, questions start popping up about the vitality of this child. About what is it that I need to do to bring up this child. All these questions start popping up. Now as parents, it's only right that you can't just have these questions and do nothing about it. You're going to have to fix these problems because you're their parents. You're the child's parents. You're the child's parents. It's not next door parents' duty to come and sort them out for your child. It's your duty. Now that you've brought them into this world, well, now it's your duty. If you didn't like them, well, you shouldn't have brought them in. But now that you've brought them in, either through choice or by mistake, it's now time to start sorting these problems. So now, this is where we start to experience the dukkha. All these what-ifs. Remember doing what-if analysis? What if this happens, what if that happens? The branching that we used to do when we did probability, statistics and so on and so forth. Well, what-if questions, risk analysis. Remember? So this is a what-if scenario. All these what-ifs start to appear in our minds only because this fetus is now alive. Were these questions there before the fetus was alive? Before there was a fetus? Before there was life in the mother? No. None of these questions were there. So all that what-if, all these what-if scenarios, what-if questions, they start appearing. Now all of this is dukkha. Now, because these what-ifs can't be just left like that and they have to be fixed, they have to be treated, some mechanism has to be sought to address these issues, now we have to start doing things. We have to start using our minds, speech and body to start taking actions. We've got to go and find a good name for this child, an auspicious time for the child to be born, a good hospital, a good ward, a good doctor to help deliver this child, a good school for this child. Is she going to be male or female? Now that determines what color you're going to paint in the bedroom, what clothes you're going to get for the child. All these things you're going to now have to check and start doing. Now you didn't do any of these things before the child was there. So clearly these are not things that we do just because. Just because? No. Not just because. We do them because now there is a child. Because if parents really enjoyed going and finding schools, getting a name, putting together a savings plan, then you would have done them even before the child was, even before you got to know the mother was pregnant. You know, if it was fun doing those things. But no, you didn't do them. You didn't start filling up your cupboards with child food, or baby clothes before there was the news of the child. You only started doing them after you got to know. It was after the fact. So these are not things that you do for fun. These are things you're having to do, right? Things that we are having to do. Now, all of these things are sankhara, abhisankhara. Abhisankhara because this is required. All of these speech, thoughts and actions are required for the vitality of this child, for bringing up this child, for the existence of this child, because we are attached to this child. What if the mother didn't care about the baby? Oh, then whatever. Some parents stop smoking when they become pregnant. Some mothers do that. Some others stop taking alcohol when they become pregnant. Why? Because now they care more about the baby that's developing inside the womb than their addiction that they have or their attachment that they have to smoking or drinking or whatever the case might be. Right? We've all experienced that. We've all seen that happen in society. So we know that. We know that. Now all of these sacrifices we are prepared to make because of our attachment to the child that is now going to be coming into this world in the very near future. So all this sankhara we are now prepared to do. Now, having done all this sankhara, eventually the child comes into this world. We can now give the child a name. We can put the child to a good school. And at the point that the child is now able to enjoy the fruits of our labor, is able to go to a good school because we did all the hard work so that the child could do that, is able to get a savings account in their name because as parents we were able to save enough for the child. Right? I'm using these examples because these are general examples that you will have all experienced in your lives. Not one that I've experienced, but I assume as parents you might have. But I know my parents would have done this for me. So all the baby food that went into the cupboard. So when the child is able to enjoy all these things that you have prepared in advance for this child, that's a moment to enjoy. That's a moment to enjoy. Now you feel happy. Hey, look, I've done this for my child. I'm so happy that my child is growing up to be healthy. She's pretty. She's happy. That's what I wish for as a parent. This is the point where we experience that pleasure. But despite all this effort, this child, from the day that it came into this world, has a ticking clock. And that clock is ticking. So this ticking clock keeps ticking until the day comes when it's ticked its last tick. So that's when this clock stops. And this child ages. This child is subject to disease, becomes ill, vomits, has diarrhea, suffers from a rash, a fever, temperature, cold, right? All these things that begin to happen. Now that takes away, that steals away our happiness, the parents' happiness. Now, would the parents have to experience any of this if the child didn't come into the mother's womb? Would they? No. So the dukkha was the birth of that child, not the child coming into this world, but the fetus coming alive. The birth of the fetus, that was the birth of dukkha. From that point forward, the what if questions started to arise. All of that was the dukkha. When do these what if questions stop? Either when the child dies, and you've also, well actually it's really not even then. Why? Will I be able to give my child a good funeral? What if the parents are still alive when the child has died? Now will I be able to give my child a good funeral? Will I be able to offer an alms every year and pass on merit to this child? Still, all these what ifs. So either you should die, really not the child, or the attachment that you have to the child should die. One of these two things has to die, has to stop, has to cease. And at that point, dukkha ceases. And for as long as dukkha is there, sankhara dukkha is always there, entwined. Why? Because we don't enjoy the dukkha. To redeem ourselves, to seek relief from the dukkha, we are prepared to do sankhara. Going shopping, buying baby stuff, baby food, cooking baby food, taking baby to Montessori, taking baby to school, finding friends for baby. All these things we are prepared to do. We weren't prepared to do them without the baby. So really, they're not fun to do just because. But we are now prepared to do that to relieve ourselves from dukkha. So this is all the sankhara dukkha. And when we see that smile on the baby's face, that is why we brought a baby into this world in the first place, right? To see the smile on that baby's face, nothing else. What if there was a baby that came into this world and they couldn't smile? The baby couldn't smile. Problem. When you go on Facebook as parents, as young parents or as people who will have all have had a young life, think about how you decided one fine day, hey, why don't we have a child as well? You looked at your friends, relatives, went online, watched TV, looked at the adverts, and as it happens, wherever you looked, everyone that had a child lived a very happy life. So in seek of a very happy life, you decided, let's bring a child into this world. My parents weren't any different. But little did they know what a bundle of mess, what a bundle of trouble they were bringing into this world. Little did they know. So all that pleasure is really to satisfy yourself. And then eventually, it's time to say goodbye. Eventually, the child falls ill. Eventually, the child grows old. And if the parents are still alive, that's not a sight that is pretty. That's not a sight that they like to see. And therefore they go back into viparinama dukkha. So the birth of sankhara dukkha and viparinama dukkha, as well as the dukkha dukkha, was all rooted in what? Dukkha. And there's only one way that dukkha can stop. Either, well, you're going to have to die, or attached to die. And if you're only speaking about the mental stuff, for example, you're talking about physical pain, you don't have to really suffer mentally. If you're only talking about the mental, the psychological pain, the psychological suffering, then there's only one answer. Attachment has to stop. So all this suffering really is rooted in attachment. Now, in order to better understand these three dukkhas, I'll give you another example. You see, the reason I continue to offer these examples and speak about dukkha dukkha, viparinama dukkha, sankhara dukkha is, like I said, you visited the doctor. You're at the clinic. What else am I going to talk to you about other than the problem that you have? If you've got a cold, I'm not going to talk to you about a backache. That would be madness. I'm wasting your time and you're wasting mine. If you were to have a conversation about a backache, is that not right? You've come in with a common cold. I'm talking to you about a backache. Waste of time or good use of time? Waste of time. The problem that we are here, the problem that we seek refuge in the Buddha, Dhamma and the Sangha is because we have a fundamental problem of this vexation. And as I reminded a few people that we got together earlier on this afternoon, the problem that we are trying to tackle is not if there's a birth after this. It's not if there was a birth before this. If not, it's not whether there was karma and vipaka. None of that. Because much of that sometimes we have to take by faith. The Buddha's philosophy is not based in faith. There are some things that are useful to take through faith. Useful, but not essential. But if you have studied most other religions, and this is not an attack at anybody or any other religion, most other religions have a doctrine which is based in faith. At the fundamental level, if you don't have faith in something that you can't see, something that you can't hear, something that you can't experience, then you can't really progress on that path. Most other religions have that kind of philosophy, that kind of doctrine, but not the Buddha's philosophy. In the Buddha's philosophy, the most primitive, the most basic, the most fundamental doctrine is not based on something that you have to take by faith. It's something that we can see. Not feel, see. So what's the difference? Let me explain. One fine day, we get an infection. An infection. This infection is caused by a bacteria that we have ingested. So now it's implanted itself within our body. What's in our body? A bacteria. Okay? There's bacteria within our body that is infectious. So now that the bacteria has gone into our body, now we have this disease. We now have an infection. Now, as well-educated people, you will know that there are two things in this world. One's a disease, and the other, and then there are symptoms. Disease is one, symptoms are another. Now, some of the symptoms of this disease that has now been caused through the ingestion of this bacteria are a cough, a fever, and let's say there's a rash on the arms and the legs. So these are all symptoms of the disease. Is that the disease? That's not the disease. They're the symptoms. The cough is not the disease. It's the symptom. The fever is not the disease. It's the symptom. The rash is not the disease. It's the symptom. What's the disease? The ingestion of the bacteria. At the point the bacteria went into our body, at that point the disease is now, I now have that disease. I have now been infected. Right? I have now been infected. I mean, sometimes there are, you'll have heard of incubation periods where the bacteria has been ingested, but this is the time between infection and symptoms starting to appear. You don't see the symptoms until the incubation period has elapsed. So the symptoms are not the infection. Are we all happy with that? All in agreement? Great. You can all understand this, Buddha, yeah? Okay. Now, when we have a cough, anyone here like a cough? No, we don't like a cough. Anyone here like a fever, a temperature? No, we don't like that. Or a rash? No. We don't like any of these things. But when we feel a cough, do we see a cough or do we feel a cough? This is something we feel. The pain, the suffering that comes with a cough is something not we see, but we feel. When we have a fever, a temperature, that's when we go to the doctor and say, I don't feel too well. When I have a cough, that's when I go to the doctor and say, I don't feel too well. When there's a rash all over my body and when it's itching all the time, I go to the doctor and say, I don't feel too well. So now I'm suffering from the symptoms of the disease. I'm not suffering from the disease. I'm suffering from the symptoms of the disease. So when someone has a cough, let's say this guy's got a friend. Okay? So one fine day, this guy's friend, friend A, okay, this is friend A. There's another friend who's going to come on later on. So friend A comes along and says, hey, I see you coughing all the time. What's wrong, mate? He asks. Well, you know, I've got this really bad cough and I've been having this for some time now. I'm coughing all the time. And he coughs again. And this friend says, oh, right, I know this one. I've got this myself. I've got this myself. I've had this cough actually, I've had this for a few months now. But you're lucky that you met me. You're lucky you met me because I met another friend. A friend of mine recommended a cough syrup. He recommended a cough syrup. He or she recommended a cough syrup that I ought to take. And ever since I took that cough syrup, ever since I started to take this cough syrup, my cough has started to disappear. I don't cough so much now. And you say you've got a fever as well? Yeah, I've got a fever as well. Oh, great. You're lucky you met me. I had a friend who also offered me this medicine, some pills, which were very quick at taking away my fever, at dropping my fever. So I take these pills and I've been taking them for the last 6 months. And also there's a cream. Do you have a rash? Yes, see, I have a rash on all over my arms and in my legs. Well, great, you're lucky that you met me. A friend of mine noticed that I had this problem. He spotted rashes all over my body and he gave me this ointment, this cream that you should apply on your skin. And I've been doing that for the last 6 months. And guess what? The symptoms are gone. So then we asked this person, so, okay, great. So have you stopped taking this cough syrup and the pills and the ointment? No, you can't stop it. You can't stop it. You just keep taking it. Because for as long as you keep taking the cough syrup, there's no cough. Well, have you tried stopping it? Yes, there was once I made the mistake of stopping. I went on holiday and forgot to take my medicines, my meds with me. I left them at home, came back a week later and I was coughing my lungs out. So really quickly, as soon as I got back home, I started to take my medicines again. And then as soon as I started taking them, the following morning, the cough's gone. So therefore, that day I learned by making a mistake that I will never, from this point forward, stop taking my meds. I will always take my cough syrup, and my prescription says take these pills every 8 hours, and without mistake I will be taking these pills. And also this ointment every night before bed, I have to apply this cream and I have no problem. So I just continue doing them. And for as long as I continue taking my meds, no problem. This is what friend A says. So of course, having listened to friend A speak about his experience, speak about how there was this cough syrup that treated his cough, speaking about how there was this pill that treated his fever, speaking about how there's this cream that when he applied, took away all his rashes, what are we now going to do? Start taking the cough syrup. We're going to start taking the pills and we're going to start applying the cream as soon as we can fetch them. Now we also start applying and taking this medicines that our friend used to take, friend A used to take. So, all great, all good and well, because for as long as we take these medicines, no problem. No cough, no temperature, no rash. Now, one fine day, another friend comes along. This is friend B. Let's say one was Richard, the guy who came first, and this is Sam. Sam comes along and says, hey mate, I see you taking these pills every day. I see you taking this cough syrup every day. It's always in your bag. Wherever you go, you've got this cough syrup, you've got these pills. I also checked your keyhole, and I can see pills in there all the time. What's wrong with you? Well, I've had this cough for a very long time. And I met Richard the other day. and he suggested I should take this cough syrup, I should take these pills, and I should apply this cream that I take with me all the time. And for as long as I do that, I have no problem. But the moment I stop taking these meds, the cough returns, the temperature returns, and the rash returns. I get a relapse. So now Sam asks, and in fact he says, well, you know what? You're lucky you met me. You're lucky you met me. Because I used to have the same problem. And I also used to take that cough syrup, just the same one that you take today. I also used to take the same pills that you're taking there. I can see that. I also used to take the same cream that I also used to apply them all over my arms and legs before I went to bed. But one day, I met another friend of mine who said, you know, it's not right that you have to take them every day. Why don't you go see a doctor? So I did. And I went to see a doctor. And you know what the doctor did? The doctor ran a full test. He took x-rays of my lungs. And then he came back and said, you've been ingested with some bacteria. And that bacteria has to be treated. And he prescribed antibiotics. I took the antibiotics. 2 weeks later, my cough was gone, my fever was gone, and my rash is gone. Now I don't have to take any cough syrup. Now I don't have to take any pills. Now I don't need any cream because I don't have any symptoms. Because the disease has been treated. Following me so far? Okay. So this is what Sam's advice was. Now we begin to think, you see, at this point we have two choices. We can either say, hey Sam, you know, that's a lot of work, mate. Going to the doctor, that's just a lot of work. Who knows, you know, if those pills are going to work for me or not. These antibiotics, you say, I've never tried them. I don't know if they work or not. But this cough syrup, that works. I've tried it and I know it works. You see, every day I take my cough syrup, no cough. And you have no idea how good it feels when you don't have the cough. You have no idea. And when I have a temperature and I quickly take my pills, when the temperature goes away, you have no idea how good that feels. And when I have to scratch myself all day long and I apply the cream at night, when the scratch stops, you have no idea how good that feels. So I'm really not interested in seeing the doctor. Thank you for your advice. You carry on with your life and I will with mine. This is one choice that we have. The other choice we have is, actually, you know what? Let's go see that doctor. You know, you can tell me which one's the foolish choice, which one's the wise choice. So let's say we take choice B, which is go and visit the doctor. And the doctor then again, as he did with Sam, runs these tests, takes an x-ray of our lungs, all the checkups that he has to do, and finally comes back and gives us the same diagnosis, which is, we have been ingested with this bacteria, and that is the cause of this infection. Here's the prescription. He writes down the name of an antibiotic. He says, take this every 8 hours and take it for 2 weeks and you'll be fine as a fiddle. So we follow that advice. And presto, end of 2 weeks, no more cough, no more fever, no more rash. The problem's been solved. Now again, you know I'm not just talking about a visit to the doctor, right? Let's relate this to dukkha dukkha, sankhara dukkha, and viparinama dukkha, and what the dukkha is as well. Because I think, when I don't know where this idea came. When it came to me, and I've been speaking about this with a few people, and it really makes sense. Well, it does to me, and I hope it will for some of you as well. What's the infection? What caused the infection? Bacteria? In the example I gave, what caused the infection? Think carefully. What caused the infection? Was it the bacteria? Isn't there bacteria all around us? Are you infected? Ingestion of the bacteria, not the bacteria. Don't blame bacteria. If you don't wash your hands before you eat, don't blame bacteria. That's not the bacteria's fault that you didn't wash your hands before you ate. If you don't wash your hands before you eat, what are you going to do? You're going to now ingest the bacteria. That's when the infection starts. No presence of bacteria. That's not the problem. It's the ingestion of the bacteria that's the problem. Ingestion is taking into your body. That's when the problem starts. That's when the infection started. The moment the bacteria was ingested, the infection is now mine. This infection is now within the body. I am now infected, right? Now, once the incubation period has lapsed, along comes the fever. Along comes the cough. Along comes the rash. What is in relation to the Dhamma? Dukkha, dukkha. So what was the dukkha then? If this is the dukkha, dukkha, what's the dukkha? Absolutely. Ingestion of the bacteria. Not just any old injection. I mean, we can ingest all types of things. Rice and curry and fruits and ice cream. None of that causes us problems. But ingest the bacteria, now you have a problem. Now you have a problem. So the onset of the fever, the onset of the cough, the onset of the rash is all due to what? Ingestion of the bacteria. The infection is now starting to show symptoms. The onset of these symptoms is the dukkha, dukkha. What is the dukkha again? Ingestion of the bacteria. Are you just saying it because I'm saying so? Is this example clear to you? Okay? To you as well, Putta? Yes? Good. This is why I like to use really simple examples that everyone can understand. I don't want to talk about rocket science. Even I don't understand rocket science. I can't talk of something I don't understand. So now we experience this pain. You see, when you begin to feel this cough, when the fever comes along, when the rash comes along, are you seeing the infection or are you feeling the symptoms of the infection? We are now feeling the infection. We are now feeling the symptoms of the infection. But because we can't bear the pain, we don't like the cough, we don't like the fever, we don't like the rash, we don't like this experience of this pain, what we do is we go to the doctor. We channel the doctor, sit in front of the doctor, and now we start explaining the symptoms to the doctor. And now, tell me, does the doctor feel our pain or does he see the problem with us? Now he sees the problem because he's a doctor. He or she is a doctor. A doctor who is well versed with such symptoms. He's well versed because he's been to medical college and he's done his MBBS. He's done his FRCPs and this, that and the other. And now he knows when he sees a patient, once he's run his checks, this is what's wrong with you. A doctor who sees the problem, is he only going to be giving me a cough syrup or is he also going to give me a prescription which includes antibiotics? He's going to give me antibiotics. He sees the problem. But what if the doctor also only felt the problem? He sympathizes with me. He doesn't empathize. He sympathizes with me. What happens then? Now he's going to give me a cough syrup. Now he's going to give me a paracetamol to take away the fever. Now he's going to give me a cream so I can apply it on my arms and legs and take away, just like Richard did. Because Richard thought that he was a doctor. He thought he was a doctor. He wasn't a doctor. He was not a qualified doctor. But the doctor that we are now visiting, the doctor who sat in front of me right now, he's a qualified doctor. So this doctor, he's not feeling my pain, but he's seeing what's wrong with me. Do you see the difference between feeling vexation and seeing vexation? Do you see the difference between feeling the problem and seeing the problem? Chakkung udapadi, right? Jnanang udapadi, panya udapadi, vijja udapadi, aloko udapadi. Were these things that the Buddha felt or things that the Buddha saw? He saw them. He saw the problem. Everyone else was feeling the problem, left, right and center. We were all feeling old age. We were all feeling illness, disease and death, but none of us saw the problem. To see the problem is to really understand the problem, to understand the cause for the problem, to understand the cessation of the problem, and to understand the path to cessation of the problem. Only someone who can do all four of these things has seen the problem. This is why we call a doctor. Because a doctor knows what the problem is. He knows what the cause for the problem is. He knows how to stop this problem and the steps that are required to take to stop the problem. In relation to the example, he looks at the cough, he examines the fever, He takes our temperature, he looks at me, he inspects my arms and legs and he sees that, there's a rash. But he knows that these are only the symptoms, but the real problem is the infection. He knows that. He knows that the cause for the problem is the ingestion of the disease, of the bacteria. He knows the cause of the problem is the ingestion of the bacteria. He knows that to seize this problem, you have to take this pill. What's the path then? Take this pill once every 8 hours for 2 weeks. That's the path. Just because there's the medicine, that's not enough. You can't take a bottle of antibiotics and keep it on your stool and just keep staring at it and expect the problem to go away. You've got to take it. Just like you ingested the bacteria, now you have to start ingesting your medicines. So let's go back to the example. Cough. When you experience the cough, what did Richard ask us to do? Take cough syrup. To take the cough syrup, obviously we've got to go and find ourselves some cough syrup. You've got to go to the shop, you've got to go to the pharmacy and find the cough syrup. Sometimes there are other concoctions that you have to prepare. Like particularly in indigenous medicine, in Sri Lankan Ayurvedic medicine, there are lots of things you have to, roots and barks of trees and leaves and twigs and all these things you have to bring together, and then you have to distill them 8 to 1, right? You've got to do all that stuff. So all of this is what? What dukkha? Sankhara. This is all sankhara dukkha. Haven't we all done this? Yes. This is why I'm giving an example that we can all relate to. This is all sankhara dukkha. Now, when you do the sankhara dukkha and take the medicine, this is the cough syrup I'm speaking of, what happens to the cough? The cough reduces. Forever? No. Only for as long as you take the cough syrup. Stop taking it one day, see what happens the next day. You're coughing again. What about the fever? Same. Stop taking your paracetamol, the next day you've got a fever. What about the rash? Stop applying your cream at night, the following day you've got the rash again. For as long as you keep taking your medicines, which is, in other words, for as long as you keep doing the sankhara dukkha, you can seek relief from dukkha dukkha. All with me so far? What happens if you stop doing sankhara? The cough returns. Which is in relation to the Dhamma? What dukkha? Viparinama dukkha. Stop doing sankhara and you're back at viparinama. No cough, but the cough returns. As the moment you stop taking your cough syrup, the moment you stop taking your pills, the fever returns. That's all viparinama dukkha. So you see, until you actually see the problem and treat the cause, the root of the problem, what's going to happen? You're going to forever have to keep taking your cough syrup, forever keep taking your pills, your paracetamol tablets, and forever you're going to have to keep applying that cream for your rash. Now, as it happens, when you go to your pharmacy, if you haven't seen the problem, you go to the pharmacy, you say, hey, you know what, I've got this cough, I've got this fever, and I've got this rash. You've got something for it. Now the pharmacist will come up to you and say, well, sir, as it happens, we've got 3 medicines. One's more expensive than the other. So one's expensive, the other's more expensive, the other's even more expensive. Which one would you like? So then you take out your wallet and check how much money you've got. You ask her, why is one more expensive than the other? Why aren't they all the same? Well, then the pharmacist says, well, medicine A or drug A can treat the cough. Drug B can treat the cough and the fever. Whereas drug C will treat fever, cough and the rash. Which one would you like? In other words, which one can you afford? So now you check your wallet and you say, well, I can only afford drug A. I'll live with the fever and I'll live with the rash. I just can't bear the cough, so just give me drug A, that's all I've got money for right now. So you give the money, you hand over the money and you take the cough syrup. Now let's put that in context of the Dhamma. There's the human world, there's the Deva world, and then there's the Brahma world. For as long as you're in the Deva world, for as long as you're in the human world, your cough is gone. So the pain that you have to experience in the 4 great hells, you don't have to. When you've got a fever, at least you can go and ask somebody, hey, I've got a fever, can you help me? I'm hungry, can you give me some food? Have you not seen beggars on streets? If you're homeless, you can go and ask somebody for help. This is seeking treatment for the cough. But the fever and the rash, you can't, because you can't afford it. You don't have enough what? Merit. You don't have enough money. You haven't earned enough money. You haven't earned enough merit to buy drug B or drug C. Then there are others who worked really hard, done a lot of merit, and now they can afford drug B. Drug B is going to not necessarily cure, well, it's going to cure, but not forever. It's going to cure the fever and it's going to cure the cough, but it's not going to treat the rash. That's being born in the Deva worlds, where life is better than in the human worlds. Better. Because there's less pain, less suffering. Mentally or physically? Which one? Physically, not mentally. What's the cause for mental suffering? Attachment, right? Who says there's less attachment in the Deva worlds? Is there any less attachment in the Brahma worlds than in the human worlds? No. Attachment is the same. The only treatment for attachment is antibiotic, which is the Four Noble Truths. And only one doctor can give us that. So in the Brahma worlds, you can afford, because you have enough merit, you can afford this third drug, which is drug C, which cures the fever, the cough and the rash. Now all symptoms have disappeared for as long as you're in the Brahma world. What happens when you run out of money? You haven't treated the problem. You haven't treated the infection. The bacteria is still inside the body. Now what happens when you run out of money? It's back to the Deva worlds. It's back to the human world. If you have no money at all, then it's back to the apayas, where there's no treatment for cough, there's no treatment for fever, and there's no treatment for the rash. Now, when we went to see the doctor gave us medicines. He gave us an antibiotic prescription. Okay. Tell me, was this prescription of the antibiotic to kill all the bacteria in the world? Is that possible? Is that practical? It's not practical. What was the antibiotic for? To rid the body of the bacteria that you have ingested. Not to treat the outside problem. To treat the problem on the inside. There's plenty of bacteria in the world. The problem is the ingestion of the bacteria. Now what's this bacteria in the context of the Dhamma? A conditioned world. Aren't all things in the world conditioned? Sankata? All things in the world are conditioned. When does it become a problem? When you attach. Attaching to a conditioned world, in our example, is the ingestion of the bacteria within the body. Once you've done that, now the bacteria is part of the body and now you are infected. Dukkha has been born. Because you are now infected, the symptoms start to appear. Whenever you take the cough syrup, the cough starts to diminish. What if someone walked up to another person who didn't have the cough at all, no infection, and says, "Hey, unlike you, I have a cough, but when I take the cough syrup, the cough goes away. And the feeling is so good." You have no idea. What a shame you can't experience that. Look at me. All I have to do is take the cough syrup and the cough goes away. I feel so good then. Why don't you enjoy that? You're speaking to someone who doesn't have the cough, who doesn't have the infection. Is that a wise thing to say or a foolish thing to say? It's a foolish thing to say. This is why comparing ashvada or pleasure to true happiness, supreme bliss, is madness. Because Nibbana is not where you've had a cough and you've taken cough syrup and therefore the cough has diminished. That's not what Nibbanic bliss is. That's what pleasure is. What is pleasure again? Relief from suffering. Relief from suffering is pleasure. Relief from cough, that's cough relief. Relief from cough is pleasure. But it's not. Is it right for someone who has relieved themselves of cough by taking a cough syrup to go up to someone and say, "Hey, don't you have a cough? You really should get yourself a cough." Because what happens then? You can take some cough syrup and then you're going to feel so good. You don't have a fever? What a shame. Get yourself a temperature. Then I can give you these pills. Take those pills and the fever is going to diminish and then you're going to feel so great. That would be foolish, right? So what should we ought to do then? Take the antibiotic. The antibiotic was given to us by the greatest doctor that this universe has ever seen. Because he's the only doctor who's given this prescription. Everyone else tried to treat this problem. Everyone else gave us medicines for the symptoms, not the disease. Trying to find the cause for this problem, trying to find the treatment for this problem is like tuning your radio. It's like tuning your radio. When you have the radio band, AM, FM, whatever, if there's a particular radio station that you want to tune to and you have no idea what frequency it's on, you're going to have to keep turning the knob until you hear what you're expecting to hear. Right? If you don't know what frequency it is, then you're going to have to keep turning the knob until you hear, actually, that sounds like it. You're going to have to keep turning the knob because you don't know what frequency it is. The Buddha is someone who's tried out every different frequency on that spectrum. Every individual frequency on that spectrum he tried out. These are all suggested treatments for the problem. Everything other than antibiotic. There's only one frequency in this entire universe on which there's a radio station that says antibiotics, 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 antibiotics. Every other frequency says what? Cough syrup, paracetamol. What else do you have? Dettol, this, that, right? All these treatments for what? The infection or the symptoms? Symptoms. The Buddha tried each and every one of them. He tried each and every one of them. That's why it took him so long. That's why it took him so long. For the Buddha, having attained Buddhahood and then to proclaim, there is nowhere else in this universe. In this world full of devas, brahmas, brahmins and humans, no one else, nowhere else can you find this teaching. Can you find this medication to the problem? To have said that, don't you think he should have tried all that? He's gone through trial and error of all of those things. Every single medicine that he came across, he tried it. He tried it and he realized, no, it doesn't work. Doesn't work. Doesn't work. 87.15 doesn't work. 87.16, no, doesn't work. 87.17, no, doesn't work. He's tuning his radio. All you need to miss is 1/10 of a frequency. 1/10. And you missed it. This is why it took the Buddha so long. Many eons. Many, many eons. When he had the opportunity to tune to that frequency at the feet of Lord Dipankara. And he said, no, I want to tune this radio by myself. Let me do it. Aren't we so fortunate? Try tuning your radio not knowing what frequency you are tuning it to. One extra turn, just one tiny degree or half a degree, and you've lost the frequency. Try tuning your radio to that. We're talking about it in Nibbana. I say try tuning your radio to that. How difficult is that? This is what the Buddha gave us. Because he tuned his radio perfect and said that is the frequency you need. Now all we have to do is tune our radios to that frequency. We don't have to go looking for the frequency. But most people, alas, spend a lot of time trying to find the frequency, when the Buddha has done that for us. Most people do that. When you hear on the radio, hey, it's antibiotic, take the antibiotic, antibiotic. You say, no, actually, you know what, maybe there's something else other than antibiotics. Oh, let's try tuning it again. What a waste of time. Because we don't have the time for that. You can only... If the cough gets really, really bad, if the fever gets really, really bad, and the rash gets really, really bad, remember, you're not even going to be able to get out of bed to go to the doctor. once you're back in the four hells, you're not going to be able to get up to go to the doctor. You're lucky that your fever, your cough and your rash is in a state where it's not so bad that at least you can go to the doctor. But when we were in the hells, there were doctors who had clinics who were treating patients and seeing them and attending to them. But no, we didn't have the chance to go there. So you see, that's the difference between feeling and seeing. To see is through wisdom. To feel is through experiencing, through physical sensation. Physical or mental sensation. That is feeling. Now, without seeing the problem, we are always going to be experiencing or rather feeling the problem. And we've been doing that forever in samsara. When we say jati pi dukkha, jara pi dukkha, vyadhi pi dukkha, maranam pi dukkha, shoka parideva dukkha domanassa, eva metasa kevalasa dukkha khandasa samudayo hoti. Sorrow, lamentation, frustration, disappointment, right? All of these things are feelings. All of these things are feeling the symptoms of the problem. But where's the problem? That's attachment. That's ingestion of the bacteria. So that's what we need to fix. I'll give you another example. All these examples to help this click within you, right? Because several people came up to me over the last week and asked me, Swami Nahasa, I've been coming along to Sinhala sermons, English sermons and so on and so forth. Can you help me understand exactly what is required to know to become a Sotapanna? What do I need to know? Can you precisely pinpoint that for me? This is what I'm helping you to do. Like I said, once you know the treatment, you don't have to come back here again. If you know the problem, if you know the cause of the problem, if you know the cessation of the problem and the path, you don't have to come back here again. Go do your own thing. Because now you've now seen what you have to do. I'll give you another example. Have you seen kids play on the beach with sand? And they build sand castles? You done that? Yes? So have I. As a kid, I used to love building sand castles. So when I went to the beach, I was watching the waves, and then I'd find my own spot on the beach, and then I'd go and bring some sand together, dig some sand up, and then my friends would come and say, hey, you want to be king? Ah, yeah, I want to be king. Well, as a king, you have to have a castle. So I started building one. Where? On the beach. With what? Sand. So I start building my sand castle on the beach. I bring my sand together, start collecting them, pushing them together, making them stick together, and start building my sand castle. But alas, I didn't expect the waves to come and wash my castle away. When it happened once, I thought, that's not so good. I want to try again. So I built my sand castle again. And then again the water came and washed it away. And then I built it again. And again it came and washed it away. Every time I was frustrated, disappointment, I really didn't like that. I was feeling very sad. Now this is something that kids would do, right? Would you expect me to walk up to the beach and start building sand castles? Please don't say yes. You wouldn't expect me to do that. Because now we know that that's a pointless thing to do. Building a sand castle on the beach is a pointless thing to do. But why? Why is it a pointless thing to do? Change. How so? What are we using to build this castle? What are our building blocks? Sand. We're using sand to build a sand castle where? On the beach. What's wrong with the fact that it's on the beach? Waves. We're building something with sand on the beach. The problem is not that it's the beach. The problem is that there are waves coming all the time, and the moment that the waves come and crash on the sand, it's going to wash the sand away, and my castle is going to come to the ground. It's going to collapse, right? So, is the problem with the water? If when the water comes and washes the sand castle away, I feel sad and I start to cry as a little baby boy, is the problem with the water? Is the problem with the waves? Is the problem with the sand? Is it? What's the problem then? building the castle. Building the castle with sand on the beach. Take the same sand, go elsewhere. Walk 100 meters away from the water. Now start building the castle with the same sand. Problem? No. No problem. Same sand, but away from the water, so that there are no waves that will come into contact with this castle. Is there a problem? No problem. What if instead of using sand, I use something like cement? Problem? Provided I can stop the water until the cement dries, no problem. But what am I doing right now? Using sand to build a sand castle on the beach where there's water flowing all the time, where the waves keep coming in all the time, right? That's the problem. So the problem's not with the waves, the problem's not with the sand, the problem's with me building a sand castle on the beach which is subject to waves always coming in and washing my sand castle away. Agreed or not? All in agreement? Okay. Now let's relate that to the Dhamma. What is this sand castle that we build? I'm not going to answer this. I want your answers. What is this sand castle that we build? I'll give you a hint if you want one. We do this with every thought. Keep going. You're so close. What is this sand castle that we build? What does a child like to see? A fully built sand castle. That's what he's trying to achieve. With every thought, what are we trying to achieve? Yes. Pleasure. Ashwade. Right? That's what we're trying to build. Ashwade. Every thought, everything we do within the thought process is to build it up to that point where you can go and stick your flag and say, I am now king. On top of your sand castle. Yes? So this sand castle that we are trying to build is this pleasure world that we keep creating. We keep trying to build with every thought that arises. So that's the sand castle. What's the sand? Now related to the Dhamma. What's the sand? Keep going. No. Sankata. Sankata. Conditioned things. These building blocks that we use to build our sandcastle are sankata. Absolutely, madam. The things that we find in the outside world. In other words, Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana. What are the waves? It's the nature of this world. What? Anicca. Anicca. Not to my liking. Conditioned. I prefer to use the word conditioned rather than not to my liking. Conditioned. So yeah, building a sand castle using sand, which are sankata, conditioned things, in a world, as in on the beach, that is subject to anicca. That is subject to condition, that is subject to this state of being conditional. So when the conditions change, what happens to the sankata? They're washed away. And then my sand castle collapses. So again, let's see where the problem is. So you said the problem's not with the water, with the waves. You said the problem's not with the sand. You said the problem was with building this sand castle. And that's right. Is the problem with sankata? Is the problem with conditioned things? No. Is the problem with Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana? No. Is the problem that this world is anicca? No. What's the problem then? We try to build a sand castle. In other words, we try to build this pleasure world on the beach using sand, which are sankata, that are subject to conditionality. That is subject to conditionality. Isn't that the problem? We're using the wrong thing for the wrong stuff. Or rather, the wrong stuff for the wrong thing. In the wrong place. Because we're using Sankata in a world that is conditional. We're using conditioned things in conditioned world to build a pleasure world which is my expectation. To fulfill my expectation. That's where the problem is. But what do people try to usually find fault with? The outside world, right? So who do they blame? Building the sandcastle? What does a child think? When the child's sandcastle keeps getting washed away, who does the child blame? Either the sand or the waves. The child says, "Hey, these waves, Mama, can you stop these waves, please? I don't like them. Can you stop these waves, please?" So they're trying to change the nature of the world. I don't like it being conditional, make it unconditional. Or they're trying to blame, or they're blaming the sand. Can you bring me something else other than sand? Can you give me something that is not a sankata? Or where can you go and find that? Nowhere. If you're on the beach, you're only going to find sand to build a sandcastle. So it's okay to be on the beach. There's no problem with being on the beach. The problem is when you start to build a sandcastle on the beach. That's when it becomes a problem. Now, you look at a baby, you look at a child and go, "Foolish child. Why is that child trying to build a sandcastle on the beach when the waves keep coming in?" So you find fault with the child, right? Any children in the house? How about all of us? Where do we keep building our sandcastles? Aren't you all trying to become kings and queens in your sandcastles? What kind of sandcastles do we build? Come on, name some. Love. Marriage. Sandcastles. A good job. Sandcastles. Rich man. Sandcastle. All these sandcastles. Boyfriend, girlfriend. Sandcastle. A nice cake. A delicious cake. Sandcastle or not? Sandcastle. A lovely house. 10 bed. Sandcastle or not? Sandcastle. With a jacuzzi. Sandcastle or not? Sandcastle. All of these sandcastles. How about a six-pack? Sandcastle or not? Sandcastle. Absolutely sandcastle. All these sandcastles. What's the problem with building sandcastles? We are using sand in a world where the waves keep coming in. Do waves come with warning? Did the tsunamis come with warning? No. They don't come with warning. They come without warning. And when the waves come, do the waves, having seen that there's a sandcastle on the beach, stop and say, "Oh, poor child, see how much pleasure that child is getting from this sandcastle. I better not wash this sandcastle away. I'm going to retrieve." Ever heard a sandcastle say that? No. Sorry, a wave say that? No. If there's a sandcastle in the way, it's going to wash it away. It doesn't care how big it is, how short it is, how tall it is, how long it is, whether it's black or white. No, I don't care. Whether it's got a flag on it, whether there's a king or a queen in it. No, don't care. If the sandcastle's there in my path, I shall wash it away. That is the nature of this world. That is the nature of anicca. It doesn't matter how much you have in your bank account. Whether you're rich or you're poor, whether you're fat or you're thin or you're black or you're white. Whether you're beautiful or you're ugly. It doesn't matter. Whether you're weak or you're strong, it really doesn't matter. When the waters come, it's going to wash you away. Sir? Yes. Asatpurusha. So a Papamitra, as you make that point, a Papamitra will say, "Hey, there's another kid with some sand trying to build his sandcastle. You don't have to dig your own sand. Go and get some sand from his while he's looking away." That's a Papamitra. Great question. What is Papa? Akusal. Dasa Akusal, right? Stealing, lying, killing, backstabbing, false speech. That's all Papa, Akusal. So what does a Papamitra say? If you want to build your sandcastle, you don't have to build it using your own energy, your own effort, your own strength. Just go and take it from somebody else's hard work. Lie to them. Take what belongs to them when they're looking away. Kill them if you must. Take their sand and come and build your sandcastle. Does it matter when the waves come whether you've built your sandcastle with your sand or someone else's sand? No. Does it? No. So someone who realizes the anicca nature of this world. See, that's a really good... I'm so glad you asked that question. I don't know whether you realize the depth of that question you asked, but it's a beautiful question. Because I wouldn't have thought about this until you asked that question. For someone who realizes that I'm building a sandcastle on the beach where the waves keep coming in, and it doesn't matter whether it's my sand or someone else's sand that I'm using to build this sand, when the waves come, irrespective of whose sand, it's going to wash it away. For someone who has that understanding, tell me, are they going to be inclined to go and steal somebody else's sand? Are they going to be inclined to go and steal, kill, lie, backstab, use frivolous speech to take somebody else's belongings? No, because it doesn't matter whose sand I use to build this. When the waves come, it's going to wash this away. So what is the point then? See, for someone who understands the Dhamma, the reason that they don't engage in the unmeritorious deeds is not because it's a bad thing to do. For someone who doesn't understand the Dhamma, for someone who doesn't see anicca dukkha anatta, of course, encourage them not to do the unmeritorious deeds because it's a bad thing to do. Explain to them, hey, that's bad. Killing animals, it's bad. You'll go to apaya for that. Explain to them in that words. But for someone who understands the Dhamma, you will no longer have to talk to them in that language. Because to them, they don't do bad things not because it's bad, because it's pointless. It's meaningless. Useless. What's the point in stealing someone else's sand? Because when the waves come, irrespective of whose sand it is, it's going to wash it away. So once you see that, this is the problem. Do you spend more time trying to go and find sand from others? Or trying to stop this problem that you have, which is, I keep building my sandcastle and it keeps washing away. Which problem are you trying to fix? Trying to find sand as quickly as you can? Or trying to find a solution to this problem where I keep building my sandcastle and it keeps washing it away? Which problem are you trying to fix now? The second problem. Not the first. That becomes immaterial. It's so difficult to find sand is not the biggest problem now. Now the bigger problem is, I keep building my sandcastle and as soon as the water comes, it keeps washing it away. What do I ought to do now? And in the Deva worlds, what do? They take the sandcastle further away from the water. In the Brahma worlds, yeah, even further away. But what happens when a tsunami comes? Now you don't have to even be on the beach. You can be on mainland and it will still wash it away. Little waves, small waves, they'll wash away stuff that's close by to the water. Yes, but when a big wave comes, now it will wash 10, 20 meters onto shore. What about a bigger, even bigger wave? 50 meters, 60 meters into the shore, it will wash them away. So now how far can you run to escape a really massive tidal wave? You can't. There's nowhere where you can build a sandcastle and be at peace of mind. Have peace of mind. If you want peace of mind, the only way you can achieve that is to do what? Stop making sandcastles. Why? Because it's bad to do so? It's useless. It's pointless. Pointless. In relation to the Dhamma, we are speaking of this thought process that we are talking of, right? Building a sandcastle is doing the sankhara. To create that castle and stick your flag on it and say, hey, I've now built it, I'm now king of this pleasure world that I've now built for myself. But you never know when the water is going to come and wash it away. The world is always subject to anicca. And as a result of that, Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana, which are the very building blocks, aka the sand, that you used to build this castle, is going to be washed away. And as soon as Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana washes away, now what happens to the sandcastle? No more sandcastle. Excuse me. No more sandcastle. So it's getting to understand that. Now a child, A child who doesn't see the fundamental problem here is going to feel the pain. Just like the patient that was coughing and had the temperature and had the rash. They're going to feel the problem. They're going to be crying. Mama, Papa, see what happened to my sandcastle? No. See, someone else came and stole my sand. You're going to hit him? Can you go and whack him? He's crying to the parents. Can you go and hit him? He took my sand. This is the problem the child has. Someone stole my sand. He doesn't see that the problem is trying to build a sandcastle. He sees the problem being someone stole my sand. Someone hid my sand. That's the problem that he sees. And for as long as he doesn't see the problem, he's only going to be feeling the problem. Having felt that problem, he's going to try to treat that problem. Can you go and speak to his mother? Tata, can you go and speak to his mother and tell him not to do that again? Why? Trying to fix the problem where? Inside or outside? Outside. So don't you think all of us, we are like kids sometimes? Sometimes or all the time? Don't we all continue with every thought moment? What are we doing? Building sandcastles, right? With every moment that passes. You can take it as fine as you want or as coarse as you want. Expand micro or macro as much as you like. Go to the micro level. You're talking about a chitta that we give rise to and then passes away. Give rise to and passes away. Talk about the macro scale. Build a house. Get married. Have a kid. All these are sandcastles. Six-pack, sandcastle. Just like you confirmed a moment ago. All of these are sandcastles. Aren't we really kids then? Don't we behave like kids? Is it not time to grow up? I mean, what's the point in hair growing grey if we haven't really grown up? Otherwise, we've just left with grey hair but no knowledge, no wisdom. What's the point in growing tall if we haven't really gained any wisdom? What's the point? So it's time to grow up. It's time to mature. It's time to understand that building these sandcastles is an absolutely bad thing to do. Bad thing to do? Pointless thing to do. Asarai. Pointless. So for someone to have this thought, hey, let's go build a sandcastle. Sabbe Dhamma Anattati. What is the Sabbe Dhamma there? Sabbe is what? So Abba. Meaning, let's create a pleasure world. Let's build a sandcastle. Isn't that Dhamma Anatta? Isn't that very thought, isn't that pointless? Isn't that why now we don't go and build sandcastles? Because we realize that it's pointless to build sandcastles on the beach. But we've seen the pointless nature of that, but we haven't seen the pointless nature of a lot of other things that we do. A kid does that with sandcastles. We do it with big houses. We do that with big marriages, big weddings, big this, big that, whatever. Trying to build ourselves sandcastles, trying to become king. When? When is this going to stop? So, the important thing to understand here though, ladies and gentlemen, is, I'm not saying stop any of that immediately. Because as a child, right, a child playing on the beach, if you were to walk up to that child and say, come here, will you? And you hold him by the hand and take him away from the sand, as he's building his sandcastle, what's he going to do? He's going to have a hissy fit. He's going to cry, he's going to shout, he's going to scream, he's going to fight back. What are you doing? I'm trying to become king. You're taking me away from my kingdom. How dare you? And sometimes he might even throw sand at you. Let me go, Amma, let me go. I want to build my sandcastle. That's what the child is going to say. But now, will you go and do that? Is that because your parents would come and pull you by the arm and take you away from the sand if you start building sandcastles? No, that's not why you do that. So you see, there was a point in your life where you began to understand that what you were doing was pointless. Remember we used to make kompitu? Why do we not do that now? Because our parents might think bad of us? No. Because we know it's pointless. Why do we not play with dolls anymore? Although we used to. Why do we not play with toy cars? I used to have a little toy jet. I used to take it around at home. I used to have a lot of fun doing that. A toy jet that I used to fly around at home in my hand. That used to give me a lot of pleasure. But I don't do that now. I don't, do I? No. I don't do that now. Why? Because Dasa Hamdara would think bad of me? No, because it's pointless. Because I'm trying to create a fabricated world. That's all I was doing. I was never a pilot. Although I thought I was a pilot. When I was a young child. I thought I was the Ninja Turtles. I used to have a staff like Donatello. Tied to my back, and I had to pull it out whenever I saw someone or something that I didn't like. But I don't do that anymore. Because I know it's pointless. Not because it's a bad thing to do. It's pointless. So once we understand that if that was pointless, then surely what we are doing now, all this abhisankara, has to be pointless. It has to be. Has to be. And if we've seen that, if we begin to understand that, then from that point forward, if we've seen that that's a problem, from that point forward, yes, it's not easy to stop it immediately. If you've seen the problem from that point forward, now it's time to take steps to stop it from happening. Not to stop doing it, to stop it from happening. Remember, don't let go. Let go happen. Don't let go. Ata harinne pa. Ata haren arin. Don't let go. Just let go happen. So if we've seen that building sandcastles on the beach is a pointless thing to do, if we've seen that, then from now on, all we need to do is to continue to contemplate on the Dhamma. The very Dhamma that showed us that building sandcastles on the beach was a pointless thing to do, the very Dhamma that showed us that, well, that's the same Dhamma that we need to continue to practice until the day comes where we stop doing it. Until the day comes where it doesn't happen anymore. This is why the Buddha says, to become a Sotapanna, reflect on Anicca Dukkha Anatta. To become a Sakurdagami, Anicca Dukkha Anatta. To become an Anagami, Anicca Dukkha Anatta. To become an Arahant, Anicca Dukkha Anatta. What about an Arahant? Still Anicca Dukkha Anatta. Thankfully. Because otherwise we'd have to check if people have become Anagamis and Sakurdagamis and Sotapannas, if after that point you have to do something else. Imagine that. Keep walking. At that junction, take a left. Now you have to check if you're at the junction. Thankfully, it's Anicca Dukkha Anatta all the way through. No junctions to turn left or right. It's Anicca Dukkha Anatta all the way through. Same path, same road, just non-stop. Until you die, continue doing that. How's that for a channel? Until you die, until your last breath, even in your last breath, what do you contemplate on? Anicca Dukkha Anatta. Nothing else. Because, why? What if you are a Pruthakjana at that point? Well, if you are a Pruthakjana, you can't become a Sotapanna if you are not listening to the Bana. But let's say you are a Sotapanna. If you are reflecting on Anicca Dukkha Anatta in your last moment that you are alive, in that last breath, chances are you could become a Sakurdagami. Chances are you could become an Anagami. Chances are you could become an Arahatun Mahanse. What if you are an Anagami? Then chances are you could become an Arahat. At that last point. What if you are an Arahat? Good. Then nothing lost. Nothing lost. What if someone comes to the false idea that I am an Arahat now? I'm not talking about myself, by the way, okay? Someone, let's assume, comes to the false impression that they're an Arahat. What if now they stop practicing Anicca Dukkha Anatta? Let's say they're an Anagami, because that can happen. It's quite easy to happen. An Anagami thinks that they're an Arahant. Plenty of times in the Tripitaka you can read where there are times where an Anagami person thinks that they're an Arahant. Because the nature of an Anagami person is such that, the attachments that they have to a lot of worldly things have now disappeared. So now they can come into the false impression that, hey, perhaps I'll become an Arahant. Particularly if they live in some kind of environment, like a monastery or a temple where you don't get those situations where you have to face the world, where there's opportunities for raga, dvesha and moha to arise. And if you are not extremely mindful of your mind, then it's possible that you can be fooled to think that you have become an Arahant. So what if someone like that now stops to practice anicca dukkha anatta? Well, now what's going to happen? At the moment of death, you're going to go into an Rupavachara Brahma world, and there you're going to be there for many kalpas, many yawns. What a shame. Is it better to treat the ailment, to treat the infection, or take a medicine that treats the cough, the fever and the rash? Which one? Treat the infection or treat the cough? Treat the infection or treat the cough and the fever? Treat the infection or treat the cough, the fever and the rash? Treat the infection, right? So is it better to go to a Brahma world, or while you've got the chance to take this prescription that has the antibiotic written in block capitals, do we rather do this or wait for the next time? Let's do it now. Let's do it now. Yes. Yeah. Sure. That's an excellent question, madam. It does not matter whether you're lay or you're clergy, because Nibbana is not something that comes with the robe. It does not come in the alms bowl, by the way. I know that. It's a state of mind. Okay? And there are, going back I think to a discussion we had earlier on in the afternoon, because a very similar question popped up. So I'm thankful that you've raised it and we can share it with everybody. There are 4 factors which are in our control, that will help us to become a Sotapanna. Because once you become a Sotapanna, then the path is clear. At that point, we will never have to ask the question, what do I do now? Because then it's obvious. Remember Kanamutti? And I've given that example, I think, in the past, at the New Year. Were you there, madam, when I gave that example? So at the New Year festival, where you have Kanamutti Binim, I think it's called a piñata in English, where you tie this pot onto a rope, right? And then you're given a stick, so you can go and hit the pot and break it and crack it, and if you do that, then hey, you won. Now, a blindfold, yes, with a blindfold. So you're blindfolded before you begin, and usually what they do is someone comes and turns you several rounds, and then off you go. You have a stick in your hand. Now, what most people will do is once they've been armed with this stick, on their quest to try and crack this pot, they're just going to go everywhere, left, right, center, because they have no idea where they're going. Okay, they have no idea where the pot is because they haven't seen the pot. So they're just going to keep walking here and there. And with the stick that they have in their hand, they're just going to go whacking it everywhere. Sometimes it might hit somebody's head. Sometimes you might hit yourself. Hurt yourself, right? That can happen. And sometimes, you might tread on something that you shouldn't. Something dangerous, and you could hurt yourself. But among these people, by coincidence, sometimes someone might go and crack the pot. By coincidence. That can also happen. Then there are others who think, actually, you know what? I'm not going to do this by coincidence because I've been doing this long enough and I haven't been able to crack this pot. What I'm going to do now is remove my blindfold. So they take off the blindfold. And at that point, of course, you've been disqualified. Right? If the moment you take off your blindfold, you're disqualified. But that's okay. Because this game, he's decided, I don't want to play this game anymore. He no longer wants to be a member of this world. He wants to get out of this world. So disqualification in the world is perfectly fine. I don't care what people say anymore. Better for it, that now I have been disqualified. But still I want to crack that pot. So what he does now is, blindfold has been removed, stick in hand. Now he turns around and has a good look and sees, now I see the pot. It's right over there. Having seen where the pot is, does he need to ask anybody, which way should I go? No, because he's seen the pot. Does he need to ask, how many steps do I need to take from here on? No. In fact, if he's been given a stick, before he removed his blindfold, he wasn't even sure if the stick was long enough. He doubted. Oftentimes, is this stick long enough? Because I keep racking it, but nothing's happening. But now his blindfold has been removed, he can see that his stick is long enough, or it's not long enough. In which case, he goes and finds a long enough stick, a stick that's long enough. Right? And having done all that and prepared for the journey, now he sets off. He sets off in the direction of the pot, knowing fully well that every step he takes, he gets closer to the pot. Knowing fully well also that every step he takes in the other direction, he's walking away from the pot. Now you can't fool him. Now he knows whether he's heading in the right direction or the wrong direction. You can't be fooled. What if now someone comes and says, hey, he's looking at the pot right now, okay? Someone comes and says, no, the pot's in the other direction. What's he going to say? Yeah, right. And you thought you could trick me? I can see the pot. I'm not going to believe a word you say. This is why, someone who's seen where the pot is cannot be fooled, because he's seen it for himself. He doesn't need anybody else's help to see the pot. Again, you can't see the pot twice. You can only see it once. You've seen it, now you know where it is. So you walk towards the pot step by step, you get closer to the pot. Now once you are within stick's distance, what do? You whack it. And it only takes one whack. And the pot crashes. And you won. Now let's relate that to the Dhamma. Remember I said there are most people who keep walking around left, right, center with a stick in the hand, here, there, everywhere. Sometimes doubting themselves, will I ever be able to do this? Is there really a pot? Or are they just fooling me? Am I walking the wrong direction? Might I tread on something that can cause me harm? Right? These are the Pruthagjanas who have no idea where Nibbana is, what Nibbana is, where am I heading, how should I be going there, can I get there, does it really exist, can I do this in this birth, blah, 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 blah. Then there are others who by coincidence cracks this pot. That wasn't pre-planned. Who are they? Absolutely, sir. These are the Pacceka Buddhas. It's not pre-planned. One whack and, alright, okay. The pot's cracked. It wasn't pre-planned. They didn't know where they were whacking, it just happened. But the problem is though, if you wanted to know how to crack this pot, you couldn't go and ask one of them, how did you do that? What are they going to say? I took my stick and lift left, right. Try doing that yourself. Stick, left, right, no crack. Why? Well, because he can't show you the path. He's not walked the path. It was by coincidence. Then there are others who's removed the blindfold themselves. And the moment you remove the blindfold, you have now become the world. Now you have become supramundane. You are no longer part of the world. Having seen where the pot is, now they walk the path. They start walking the path with stick in hand. They don't keep whacking the stick until they get to the pot, because it's pointless. What's the point of whacking the stick if the pot's 2 meters away, 1 meter? The stick's not 1 meter long. What's the point of whacking? You get to the pot, now one whack and bang, the pot cracks. These are the Supreme Buddhas, who through no other person's instruction, through their own knowledge and wisdom, remove the blindfold, and they do it themselves. Then there are others who are the Shravaka Buddhas, the Sotapannas, who having taken instruction from a Supreme Buddha, when a Supreme Buddha says, hey, if you want to crack the pot? Yes. Well, here's what you need to do. First, take off your blindfold. Now, you no longer need my help. That's all a Buddha has to say, right? This guy goes and says, how do I get to the pot? Wait, take off your blindfold? Okay, now I don't need to say a word. Because everything else becomes obvious. This is why once someone becomes a Sotapanna, you no longer need instruction. I mean, you can seek help, because along the path there may be areas which are tough to tackle. Maybe there are sand pits, or perhaps there's mud along the way, and perhaps it's a little bit tricky to tread over them or go around them. You might need some instruction there, but you know without a shadow of a doubt the pot exists. No question. The pot is in that direction, no question. This stick is long enough, yes, no question. Walk, I must, no question. Clear so far? So, I said there are 4 factors which we can influence that help us to become, that are absolutely essential for us to becoming a Sotapanna. The first of these is Saddhamma Savana, which is to listen to the Dhamma. To listen to the Dhamma, but not just any old Dhamma. It has to be Dhamma that is Ragakya, Dveshakya, Mohakya. Because what is Nibbana after all? Ragakya Nibbana, Dveshakya Nibbana, Mohakya Nibbana. And does that happen after death? No. Ragakya, Dveshakya, Mohakya doesn't happen after death. It happens right now. Once Avidya and Tanha has been uprooted. Along with them, Raga, Dvesha and Moha are uprooted. So Raga, Dvesha, Moha are the fires that we always keep talking about. The fires of delusion, the fires of aversion, the fires of desire. Putting out the fire happens now. But for that you need to listen to the Dhamma. The Dhamma is the instruction of what? Remove the blindfold. That's the instruction. Remove the blindfold. Now, who can give us that instruction? Which one of these three? One who has not removed the blindfold. One who cracked the pot by coincidence. Or one who has removed the blindfold. Which one of these three? The third. The third. So it either has to be a Supreme Buddha or someone who has taken instruction from the Supreme Buddha can give instruction, because they have done it themselves. And the instruction is what? Remove the blindfold. That's all. Now you've seen it. No more instruction required. So the second factor then is Kalyana Mitra Sevane, association with noble persons. And that is why, because you need a noble person who has seen Nibbana for themselves. Who knows what Nibbana is, and the fact that it's Raga ke, Dvesha ke, Moha ke. It's not something after life, it's not something before life. It doesn't matter whether hells exist or heavens exist. None of that matters, really. Karma Vipaka, none of that matters. Because Nibbana is really treating the problem of Raga, Dvesha and Moha. Desire, aversion, delusion. What does that have to do with hells and heavens? What does it have to do with where does the universe start or end? When it started, end? What does that have to do with any of that? Nothing. Raga, Dvesha, Moha, that we experience right now. So only a Kalyana Mitra can give us that instruction, because only they have seen it. One who has not seen where the pot is cannot give us that instruction, because all they're going to say is, well, just go walking around whacking your stick, one day you'll find it. Or others might say, I've been trying it for so long and it hasn't happened for me yet, so really, you know what, I'm not so sure. Go ask somebody else. Well, the worst of them go, I haven't got it, I haven't managed to do it, so you know what, I've given up. You're not going to be able to do it either. So you might as well give up. That's the worst type. Do not associate them. Caution. Others who say, I've tried it, I've not managed to so far, that's okay. But have your associations with noble people who continue to say, yes, I've seen it, you can do it, here's what you ought to do. Okay? So, Kalyana Mitra Sevane. So, I'm really giving you what you need to do to become a Sotapanna. Because after you've done that, you don't need to again ask me any question after that. After that, the path is obvious. So, Saddharma Shravane, Kalyana Mitra Sevane. Then there's Yoniso Manasikara. Yoniso Manasikara. Yoni is where birth takes place. And for those of you who've studied physiology, particularly in Sinhala, Yoni, as you'll know, is where the child comes into this world from the woman's body. Okay? Yoni Hisa is the top, the root. Manasikara. To contemplate. On what? The birth of what? Dukkha. Because that's the problem we're trying to solve. Nothing else. What do we use the Buddhist doctrine for? To find the extent of the universe? To find how man evolved from monkey? No. If that happened or not? No. To study whether there's life in an egg or not? No, that's not what the Buddha's Dhamma is for. The Buddha's Dhamma is for nothing else other than how to treat the problem of suffering that we all experience, we all feel but not yet see. His teaching is to help us see suffering. So to be able to see suffering, now you need his instruction because he's seen it. And then he says to see suffering, you have to do Yoniso Manasikara. Now, the first was Saddharma Shravana. From a Kalyana Mitra, now Yoniso Manasikara. So the Dhamma that you have heard, you have to now reflect on, contemplate, by applying the Dhamma into your own life experiences. This is why when I speak to you, I talk about your own life experiences. I talk to you about building sandcastles. I talk to you about going to the doctor with a cough, with a fever. Stuff that we've all experienced in our lives. This is why I don't talk to you about going to the moon, because none of us have done that. Well, I don't think you have. It's no point talking about that. We have to talk about our experiences, our life experience, because these are the things that we can relate to. When we relate to, what do? We ask ourselves, hang on, in that experience that I had in my life, I experienced pleasure. Yes. I also experienced suffering. Yes. Okay, let's continue. So in my life experiences, there were moments when I experienced pleasure, ashwada. Then there were points in my life where I experienced pain and suffering and vexation. All that I experienced. But I never took a moment to analyze, to contemplate on what really happened. Every moment I experienced pleasure, I just went with the flow. When I saw a pretty girl, I thought, she has to be mine. Then what did I do? I went and put the ring on her. I didn't stop to check, what is this really going to do? If my purpose in life was happiness, are the things that I did to achieve happiness the things that I should have done? Because despite all the things that I've been doing so far, I still don't have the happiness that I wanted in my life. So surely then, I haven't checked before doing those things. Because that's why I still haven't achieved it. See, now you're contemplating on that. And now you're checking, why is it that the things that I thought would bring me pleasure ultimately left me unhappy, ultimately left me in tears, ultimately left with a frown on my face. Now you start to think about this. And then you realize the reason for this is, I didn't see the cause of the real problem. I didn't see the root of the problem. That's where Dhamma Anudhamma Pratipada comes, which is the fourth factor. Dhamma Anudhamma Pratipada. The Dhamma is the Paticcasamuppada process, dependent origination. Yo Paticcasamuppadam passati, so Dhammam passati. If you see Paticcasamuppada, you have seen the Dhamma. Okay? So Paticcasamuppada, this is the dependent origination process. You have to be able to see that. Anudhamma, the Four Noble Truths. Now, what does this person do? Reflecting on their own personal experiences, where they experienced pleasure, where they experienced pain. Now they, having received the gift of Dhamma from the Kalyana Mitra, because they have now been doing what? Saddhamma Sravana. From the Kalyana Mitra, doing Yoniso Manasikara with what? Dhamma Anudhamma. Dependent origination and the Four Noble Truths. Now they begin to check, that moment where I enjoyed pleasure, what was the true reason for pleasure? Now you begin to understand, pleasure is nothing other than attachment which leads to vexation. Relief from vexation brought me pleasure. Is that pleasure worth having? No. How did you come to that answer? Through the Dhamma. Every point I experienced pain, that was because the process that I followed, this production line within which I went to produce this product, pain, this production line produced nothing but pain. What was the production line? Dependent origination. What are the points in the dependent origination process? Avidya, Tanha. So whenever something gets fed into this process, no matter what the inputs are, if Avidya and Tanha are two workmen on this production line, then always, every single time, out's going to come what? Suffering. Dukkha. See, now you're beginning to see the real root of the problem. All this time you've been treating the cough, and the temperature, and the rash, not the bacteria. Why? Because we didn't know that was the problem. We didn't have instruction from someone who's a Kalyana Mitra. So now we continue to look at that. We continue to analyze that. We continue to reflect on that. So these are four factors that we can influence. Why are you doing here? You're hoping to listen to the Dhamma. You're hoping for Kalyana Mitra Sevane. You're hoping to, this is something you can't hope, you actually have to do it. Which is Yoniso Manasikara. And Dhamma Anudhamma Pratipada. All I can teach you is this is the Dhamma, this is the Anudhamma. This is the dependent origination process. I don't have to teach you Avidya Pachaya Sankara, Sankara Pachaya. That's not what's required. It's the essence behind it. It's the meanings, the feeling behind it. That's what's needed. And the essence behind the Four Noble Truths. Showing you that it's attachment every single time that causes us suffering. Because once you are crystal clear about that, laser sharp focus, no question. Yes, absolutely, it's attachment and ignorance. At that point you realize every single time I've suffered in my life was because of what? Attachment and suffering. At that point where you have received the Dhamma, you have the association of a noble person, you have been doing the Yoniso Manasikara by applying it into your life, by using Dhamma Anudhamma Pratipada, which is the dependent origination and the Four Noble Truths. At that point, your blindfold is removed. Chakkung Udapadi. You open your eyes. Now you can see the pot. Now you've seen the Dhamma. Now you've seen Nibbana. From that point forward, you don't need anybody's instruction to walk towards that. There may be obstacles on the way. You might have to jump over some. You might have to go below some. Go underneath some. You might have to crawl in some places. You might have to hop in other places. You might have to do the salsa in some other places. It doesn't matter. But you know where the pot is. You know that is the direction in which I should be heading. You know how far you have to go. So there will be other Kalyana Mitras who can help you, who can assist you. But are you dependent on their support? No. Now you can go your own path. So, now there's one other factor which is not part of the Satara Sotapatti Anga, because this is a factor that you cannot influence. I'll explain it to you, but it's not something you can influence. This is Shana Sampatti. Shana Sampatti. Which includes, it has to be an era. It has to be an era in which there is the Buddha. Because if there's no Buddha, where's the Dhamma going to come from? Right? Then it has to be, you have to have been born as a Trihetuka Pratisandilabhi. So that chitta which gave you birth in this human existence, whether there are devas, brahmas listening to this, so it applies to all of them. The chitta with which you were born has to have been based, rooted in alobha, adosa and amoha. I think we discussed this briefly in the past. And to be able to do that, the meritorious deed, the wholesome deed that you performed to bring you birth in the human life, in this human life, has to have been performed with alobha, adosa and amoha. Therefore, as a result or a vipaka of that karma, you have now received this patisandhi chitta, the chitta that brought you life in this birth, as a human, deva or brahma. They could be devas who are duhetuka. That could be the case. There could be brahmas who are duhetuka. Because you can't tell by looking at someone whether someone's a duhetuka or a trihetuka. The difference is whether they have the faculty of wisdom or not. You can't say that. Only a Buddha can say that by using one of his powers which only a Buddha has, which is Indriya Paropariyata Jnana. To penetrate into one's mind and see what capacity this person has to understand the Dhamma. Only a Supreme Buddha can do that, not even a Pacceka Buddha. So, the thing is, we can't influence that fact. But now that we don't have the luxury of a Buddha, although we have the luxury of his Dhamma, because so Dhammam Passati, yo Dhammam Passati, so Mam Passati. Even if the Buddha were here, it's not looking at his figure through which we see the Buddha. That's in his doctrine. He says, no, looking at my figure, that you haven't seen anything about me. To see me, you have to see the Dhamma. Once you've seen the Dhamma, that's when you have seen who a Buddha really is. So we still have the Dhamma. Okay? So, it has to be an era in which the Buddha's Dhamma prevails, and we are so extremely fortunate that that is the case. If we don't know whether we are a Dvihetuka or a Trihetuka, then why don't we just make an assumption that we are all Trihetukas? I mean, what else are we going to be doing? What if we are a Dvihetuka? Is there any other path that we can take? No. If you are a Trihetuka, is there a different path you can take? No, just like the story I gave you before. Sotapanna to become Sakurdagami, Anicca Dukkha Anatta. Sakurdagami to become Anagami, Anicca Dukkha Anatta. Anagami to become Arahat, Anicca Dukkha Anatta. Arahat, Anicca Dukkha Anatta. Likewise, Dvihetuka, what should they be doing? Anicca Dukkha Anatta. Practice this path. What about a Trihetuka? Still the same. Now, if you are a Dvihetuka Pratisandilabhi, there's no chance on earth that you are going to become a Sotapanna in this birth. That will not happen. Because you don't have the wisdom faculty with which you can see dukkha. You will feel dukkha, but you can't see dukkha. Because you need wisdom for that. But that may be because the power, that's clearly because the merit that you have, that reaped reward from the previous birth was not powerful enough. But unfortunately you can't change that now. That can change in the next birth. So what you ought to be doing then is do as much merit as you possibly can. As many wholesome deeds as you can. Because with every wholesome deed, with the knowledge, with the determination and the resolve that may this meritorious deed help me to attain Nibbana. May this meritorious deed empower me with the wisdom that I need to attain Nibbana. With that resolve in mind, perform meritorious deeds as many as you possibly can. Now what if you are a Trihetuka Pratisandilabhi? Should you not be doing meritorious deeds? Absolutely. Well, how do you know if you are Dvihetuka or Trihetuka? We don't know. Therefore what? Do both. Do merit and do kusal. Ping and kusal, both. So listen to the Dhamma, contemplate on the Dhamma, study the Dhamma, analyze it, reflect on your own personal experiences and see how they tally. As well as that, do as much merit as you can. Give alms, help poor people, right? Do all that. Observe sil, offer flowers to the Buddha, all that. But with everything you do, the only resolve, the only determination you need to have in your mind is what? May I be born in the Deva worlds and be a beautiful god? Goddess? No. That's pointless because we've been there so many times. And look where we are now. We were there and look where we are now. So what a pointless thing to have done. So the only determination, the only resolve we really need then is, may this meritorious deed help me to have the wisdom that I need, to have the effort that I need, the strength that I need to attain Nibbana. When? Next birth? No, in this very birth. In this very birth. Think about this. The Buddha once preached the Dhamma to 500 Arahatan Vahanses. 500 monks, of which 498 became Arahants. 2 didn't. Who were they? Absolutely. Sariputta and Moggallana. Why? Because they hadn't completed their perfections yet. In other words, they were destined to become the chief disciples of the Buddha, not any old Arahants. They were going to become the chief disciples of the Buddha. So for that they needed more merit. Fulfilling the perfections is nothing other than accruing merit. Accruing merit, that's it. So what did they do? From that point they continued to practice. They continued to acquire merit. And then Venerable Moggallana became an Arahatan Vahanse first. Why? Because he was second. The second chief disciple. And Venerable Sariputta, there was more that he had to do to become the first chief disciple of the Buddha. So what if at that point Sariputta and Moggallana Theros decided, you know what, we're not going to be able to do this in this birth. 498 became Arahants. 2 of us left. Let's give up. Let's go back home. What if they decided to do that? Likewise, turn it on its head. What if you look at somebody and say, hey, you know what, you've been listening to these sermons for so long. Why are you still a Pruthakjan? Are you not an Arahant yet? Why are you not even a Sotapanna yet? How do we know? What if that person is destined to become a Supreme Buddha? How do we know? Can't there be anyone here who's destined to become a Supreme Buddha? When might that happen? I don't know. What if there's someone here who's destined to become a Pacceka Buddha? I don't know. How do we know? Well, if the Buddha was born as a dog in certain births, in his Bodhisattva life, as a monkey in certain births, that was the animal world. Well, what about humans then? If there are animals who are destined to become Buddhas, then what about humans? So how can we point our finger at anybody and say, hey, I think you don't have enough wisdom to do this. I think you're a fool. I don't think you're going to be able to do this. It's not for us to judge. We shouldn't be judgmental. So I'll conclude by adding this part to your question, madam, because there has to be something you can do on a practical day-to-day basis, right? Because what I explained there was what you can do at the point where you listen to a sermon. When you are not in the presence of someone who's delivering a sermon, what you ought to do is contemplate on the Dhamma that you have acquired, that you have knowledge of, that you have learned. Because you need to have a certain understanding of the basic concepts of the Dhamma, which you can apply at the point where you're listening to the Dhamma. I gave the example earlier today where, say you've listened to the Dhamma, you've read the Dhamma, you've read it on the internet, right? You've watched a video, whatever the case might be, and then you get into a three-wheeler and you're being driven home by your three-wheel driver. He's a Sotapanna. He or she's a Sotapanna. You don't know that. Right? And you get into the vehicle and say, can you please take me wherever? Can you take me home? And say, yeah, sure, get in, madam. Let me drive you home. And then on the way you say, you know what? You just feel like saying, I've been to this sermon this afternoon and I thought it's a really good sermon. I think you should come along to this sermon. You're just being friendly. And just being friendly with the three-wheel driver. He's a Sotapanna. So he asks you the question, oh really? What was it that you listened to in this sermon? What was said in the sermon? Oh, that this world is full of suffering and, it's just attachment is the cause of all suffering. And, now you start to regurgitate all the stuff that you've learned. It could be perhaps you read in a book. You start to regurgitate all this. At that point, the three-wheel driver turns his head around and says to you, yeah, this world is anicca, right? That is the point that you require to become a Sotapanna. Because he's now triggered. He's pulled the trigger. He's given you Paratogosha Pratya. which is that trigger that's required from a Kalyana Mitra. Because is he not a Kalyana Mitra if he's a Sotapanna? He is. That is that trigger that you need, that spark that you needed. An example I gave, I think, earlier on this afternoon is if you want to start a fire, let's say you've gone camping, you want to start a fire, you can gather all the dead, the leaves, the twigs, the branches and everything, and you collect them together. Now you need to find a spark. Where are you going to find a spark from? Sometimes you might go and bring two rocks together and start rubbing them together. Just one tiny spark is all you need. If the leaves and the twigs and the branches are dry enough, if they are ready, all you need is one spark. That spark might take 15-20 minutes for there to be a fire, because first it's just going to be a very small smoke. It's just going to be very tiny smoke you're going to see. But the spark was provided. Now there's going to be a fire very soon. So you don't know when it might happen. But in practical life, in day-to-day life, whatever Dhamma you learn from these sermons or wherever you might go, what I suggest you do is reflect on that. Analyze it and see how one fits with the other. See if there are any gaps in your knowledge, in your understanding. And if there are, then come and speak to us. Not just us, go and speak to the monks in your local temples. Ask them, Swamin Wahanse, what is avidya? I still don't understand it. Avidya Pacchaya Sankhara, I don't get it. Swamin Wahanse, please could you explain that to us? Go and ask anybody. Swamin Wahanse in your local temples. Here, it doesn't matter. But, what happens most of the time is people, when they go to the temple, they just start talking nonsense. They don't spend that time wisely. Every monk, whoever donned robes, made a solemn promise in front of the Buddha. And that promise was, I don this robe for nothing other than to put a stop to this rebirth cycle. That is the promise that every monk, wherever they may be in this world, that promise they made in front of the Buddha. That is what their purpose in life is. But the problem is, if you go and ask them something else, well then, they have no choice but to answer the question that you have asked them. So go and ask them the right question, you'll get the right answer. Did that answer your question, madam? Okay. Okay, I think, do we want to switch on the fans? Okay, so I think we'll conclude the sermon there then. If it's the English one, I'll need the... Oh, yes it did. Okay. Let's do the Arya Maitri for a few moments, and then we'll conclude the sermon after transferring the merits. Just a word of advice. Don't think of this as just being some words that we recite. It's not a hymn sheet. Okay? It's the meaning behind the words that's extremely essential. Because this Arya Maitri is enough for someone to become a Sotapanna. If you reflect on the meaning behind these words. Because now you can fulfill those four. Right now. Saddhamma Shravana, Kalyana Mitra Sevana, Yoniso Manasikara, Dhammanudhamma Pratipada. You can do that right now. Okay? You never know when. Always be prepared. Okay. May I and all beings in all worlds be freed from the fire of birth, freed from the fire of decay, freed from the fire of illness, freed from the fire of death, freed from the fire of sorrow, freed from the fire of lamentation, healed with the ultimate bliss of Nibbana, healed with the ultimate bliss of Nibbana, healed with the ultimate bliss of Nibbana. May I and all beings in all worlds be freed from the fire of suffering, freed from the fire of discontentment, freed from the fire of exhaustion, freed from the fire of disappointment, freed from the fire of clinging on to the five aggregates, healed with the ultimate bliss of Nibbana, healed with the ultimate bliss of Nibbana, healed with the ultimate bliss of Nibbana. May I and all beings in all worlds be freed from the suffering of samsara, freed from the of samsara, freed from the fear of samsara, freed from the fire of samsara, freed from the burning of samsara, freed from the flames of samsara, freed from the sorrow of samsara, freed from the lust of samsara, freed from the clutches of samsara, healed with the ultimate bliss of Nibbana, healed with the ultimate bliss of Nibbana, healed with the ultimate bliss of Nibbana. The karma worlds are in despair. May I and all beings be freed from the karma world. The rupa worlds are in despair. May I and all beings be freed from the rupa worlds. The arupa worlds are in despair. May I and all beings be freed from the arupa worlds. All worlds are in despair. May I and all beings be freed from all the worlds. Nibbana is the only salvation. May all beings attain Nibbana. Nibbana is the only salvation. May all beings attain Nibbana. Nibbana is the only salvation. May all beings attain Nibbana. Letting go is the only salvation. May I and all beings let go. Detachment is the only salvation. May I and all beings be detached. Being freed is the only salvation. May I and all beings be freed. Nibbana is the only salvation. May I and all beings attain Nibbana. Nibbana is the only salvation. May I and all beings attain Nibbana. Nibbana is the only salvation. May I and all beings attain Nibbana. May I and all beings in all worlds be freed from the bondage of lust, freed from the bondage of aversion, freed from the bondage of delusion, freed from the bondage of Mara, healed with the ultimate bliss of Nibbana, 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 healed with the ultimate bliss of Nibbana. Do you remember the conversation between the patient and the doctor, who went in with a cough, with a fever and a rash, and came back with a prescription for antibiotics? Remember, the patient felt the pain, but the doctor saw it. Now, yes, we all feel the pain, but that's only if we look at ourselves as patients. It's time to stop being patients and for us all to become doctors. Not for others, for ourselves. So whenever you feel pain, whenever you feel pleasure, don't just go and experience it. Don't get lost in the experiencing world, because that is just a fabrication. Don't get lost in the matrix. Don't get lost in there. Open your eyes. Be the doctor. See where you are. Look at why you are feeling this pain. Look at why you are feeling this pleasure. Ultimately, you'll see what the real cause of the problem is. You will see that it's attachment that's always a problem. Attachment which is a result of ignorance. And then treat that problem. Once you've done that, you will never have to suffer from coughs and colds and fevers and rashes or anything like that ever again. So be a doctor, not a patient. There'll be problems. Don't make that problem yours. Someone asked me that question earlier on. People have problems. I like to help them. Help them. That's okay. But don't make their problem your problem. The doctor never makes your problem his problem. He just treats the problem. He treats the problem. He doesn't make your problem his problem. He treats the problem. Likewise, when you feel your own problems, don't make that your problem. Just treat the problem. Otherwise, you will only take a subjective view, and that subjective view is not going to help you treat the problem. Take an objective view. That is what the Buddha's teaching is for. Okay. So let us take a moment to transfer merits of all the meritorious deeds that we have been able to fulfill today to all those who deserve these merits. First and foremost, let us take a moment once again to reflect on the fact that it is because of the supremely enlightened Buddha, the blessed one, the perfect one, the peerless one, the unparalleled one, the unvanquished one, the undefeated one, that we have this gift of Dhamma today. It is because he sacrificed his life in many eons. With every breath that he took, all he wished was for emancipation, the path to liberation for all sentient beings. It is thanks to his sacrifice, his dedication, his commitment that today we have the path to liberation ourselves. It is because of the Bhikkhu, Bhikkhunis, Upasaka, Upasikas who studied his Dhamma, reflected on it, analyzed it, understood it and contemplated it, and protected and preserved that Dhamma for the benefit of all beings to set foot on this earth in the future, wherever they may be. It is thanks to them that we have the gift of Dhamma today. It is thanks to the gift of Dhamma that we have received from them through their laborious effort that today we are able to find this happiness, this ultimate bliss of Nibbana. So, wherever they may be, through the merits that we have all acquired today, if any of them have been born in the woeful plane, may these merits help them to be born in the blissful plane. And for all of them born in the blissful plane, may these merits help them to abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble eightfold path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Also, let us take a moment to transfer merits to the Bhikkhu, Bhikkhunis, Upasaka, Upasikas, who people just like yourselves have dedicated their lives to understanding and contemplating the Buddha's Dhamma, as well as that to disseminate the Buddha's teaching for the benefit of all sentient beings throughout the world, wherever they may be, man or woman, lay or clergy, in whichever shape or form they may be, disseminating the Buddha's teaching. May they all be able to rejoice in these merits. Also, let us take a moment to transfer merits to all members of the Mahasangha, the Mahanayakas, the Anunayakas, the chief prelates, and so on and so forth of all three Nikayas. It is because of them today that we have the Buddha's ministry. It is because of them that today we are able to witness Sangya Vahanses, from whom we are able to listen to the Dhamma and to help to find the path to liberation. So may they all also be able to rejoice in the merits that we have all acquired today. Also, let us take a moment to transfer merits to the members of the Mahasangha, the Nayaka Swamin Vahanses and the other monks and Samanera monks in your local temples and nunneries.